Hello, welcome everybody. It is my honor and a privilege to be hosting this evening the absolutely amazing Robyn and the beautiful Bärbel Wetenkamp for this show. Robyn and Bärbel, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Robynn, for having me.
Thank you. It's an honor. Sincerely, it's an honor and a privilege. I have a huge respect for both of you, for your experiences, for what you can bring actually to this discussion. And I'm absolutely sure that there are hundreds out there actually watching this video tonight and looking to learn from your experiences. We're talking about what, 30 plus 30, 30 plus whatever experience. So this is a humongous. I'm really, really proud to have you both guys here. Thank you very much for being here. Would you very kindly, although like everybody knows Robyn. Honestly, every time I mention to somebody Robyn Storey, they go, "Oh yeah, I know her. I know her on LinkedIn. I follow her on LinkedIn. I'm subscribed to her newsletter." So everybody knows you. But still, please, for the sake of the introduction, would you like to tell us a little bit about the beautiful lady, Robyn? Not work, but the person.
You are so kind. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. I'm Robynn Storey. I'm the CEO and owner of Storyline Resumes. We've been around for about 25 years, helping our clients tell their best professional stories in their resumes, their LinkedIn profiles, their biographies. I am the proud mother of two children, my daughter Alexa, who runs the actual day-to-day of Storyline Resumes, and my son Jack. They both left me and moved to New Jersey to the beach. So I spent a lot of time going back and forth between my home with my husband here in Pennsylvania and visiting our kids in New Jersey. So I'm thrilled to be here. I've been doing a lot of podcasts and a lot of appearances lately. The job market is pretty tough right now. And so hopefully your listeners can get some new ideas, some new inspiration, and some new insight into what is happening in the market today.
I'm absolutely sure, honestly, without going into the details, and we don't want to talk politics, but what we hear about thousands and thousands of employees being just overnight sent home, although they have received wonderful appraisals, this is definitely food for a long discussion with Robyn Storey. We're coming to this. We're coming to this. Bärbel, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mark. It's just such a joy to be with both of you tonight. So I'm Bärbel Wetenkamp. I'm in Switzerland right now. When I started my career, a lot of this was more intuitional. I didn't think so much about it, didn't know what I know today. Today, I'm a business consultant and career coach. So I have the pleasure to regularly work with very intelligent, very, very nice MBA students, and also C-level people, so the whole range for a career change or for the start into a career. And as you said, it's not easy today, and this is, I guess, globally the case. So indeed, I hope we can have a useful and interesting discussion together to help some of our users.
Thank you very much. I'm absolutely sure we will. And we will start with a question to the lady. Which lady? Okay. I sometimes actually host Bärbel with other people, and I always start with the lady. So today it's two ladies. So, okay. Amazing, Robyn. AI versus authenticity. With AI tools like ChatGPT generating resumes all the time today, every resume I receive looks like a copy of the other. And I'm absolutely sure that the person didn't write this. And honestly, sometimes like I would like to tell them, you know what, at least tell ChatGPT a bit about yourself. I mean, let them write something that's close to who you are. And how do you ensure storytelling approach delivers irreplaceable human nuance that algorithms would never replicate?
Yeah, I mean, just as quickly as ChatGPT and other AI tools, gained popularity, just that quick, companies said, "Hey, we don't want to receive AI-generated resumes." So they quickly came up with tools and solutions to identify and root out AI-generated resumes. So the most successful thing that you can do for your job search when you're looking at your resume and your LinkedIn profile is tell your genuine story. I saw a funny post this morning where someone said, "I will no longer accept resumes without typos because I know that they are AI generated." So even your typos need to be genuine. But in all seriousness, it is an issue. So a lot of people have decided, hey, I'm going to write my resume using AI. Unfortunately, AI keeps generating the same resume. And so recruiters now are being extremely vocal about getting these exact same cover letters, exact same resumes, exact same descriptions. Basically, people need to remember and realize that your resume isn't really about your job description, right? It's not about listing out the duties of your job. Your resume is your showcase to let the world know how it is and why it is that you have an impact on your company, on your employers, how it is that you've been successful, and telling that story. And that story can't really be generated with AI. So if you are, I always use the example, if you're an accountant, for instance, you don't want to go on your resume and say, I balance the general ledger and reconcile the bank statement, right? You want to talk about what you've done in your role to help that company improve, whether or not it's introduced new technologies, hire, train, coach, mentor new staff, came up with some sort of way to save the company money, make the company money. That's what really needs to be showing on your resume. You can't do that with AI because AI doesn't know that about you. We at Storyline ensure that your story is being told in a genuine human way because we are all genuine human beings. We do not use AI tools. We don't use any kind of pre-canned resumes. You get interviewed by an executive interviewer who understands your interview or understands your industry, and then your resume is written by a person who writes resumes for a living. So that's how we ensure that your best story is being told.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for sharing this. Bärbel, what is your experience about companies working with AI generated resumes? And frankly, some of those, as you know, are complete hallucination. Like they are completely wrong.
It's exactly as Robyn is just saying. I mean, AI is a wonderful tool to make us all faster, more productive, maybe even improve the quality of our work or the recipes we look for. But you should know one thing: this is your life, yeah. So you should be able to tell your story. I fully agree with what Robyn just said. And my experience from the customers at Claruna Consulting, they see it. They have their tools to decode what is AI written. Um, but there's also the other side of the employers. So I had some job searching customers who shared with me they sent in their resumes and never got an answer. And the whole process was told to be automized and AI and several steps, but they never heard back. So all of those systems on both sides maybe need some improvement, but here we are in people's business. So people need to talk to people. We need to like each other, understand each other, and work together.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you. Um, as we're talking about AI and artificial intelligence, Robin, from your side, what is the biggest mistake that people do and the biggest myth around using ChatGPT to create fake profiles or fake experience or fake CVs, fake resumes?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing just feels pretty icky. I mean, you never want to, even embellish your experience in any way, shape, or form. Someone had posted on LinkedIn earlier in the week, is it okay to lie on your resume if you're about to lose your house and you can't feed your kids? It's not really about lying, right? It's really about the kind of stuff that comes back to bite you in the ass, and it almost always does. So if you are working on your resume and you're including experience that you do not have, skills that you cannot perform, or abilities that you're not there yet, the employer's going to find out pretty quickly that you can't do the job that you've been hired for. So it's always best to understand what your strengths are, focus on both your strengths and your storytelling on your resume, and go after jobs that align with that. And then, we've had situations where people have come to us and said, I didn't finish my degree, but I have my degree on my resume. And if you tell me that, I'm going to tell you we're going to take it off. We're not going to be responsible for that. If you want to lie in your resume about your degree, I will tell you 1 million stories about people who have done the same and 1 million times how that did not end well. Someone eventually finds out. So it's so important to be honest and so important to be genuine because there's a lot more people involved than just you when you're applying for a job and you're not representing yourself in an honest way. There's the people that hire you, there's the team that might be relying on you. So just as in life, it's the same in resumes. Always be as honest as possible.
Absolutely agree with that.
It's a more comfortable life also. Yeah, it's easier if you don't lie. Things are much easier. You don't need to remember what you talked to. I mean, what a stress.
Yes. Bärbel, if I may, what's a non-verbal leadership skill, like active listening, body language, whatever you wish, that you found to be most impactful in executive coaching, and how do you teach it to others?
Indeed, listening and asking right and good questions. No yes and no questions. But in coaching, we want to help people to grow, to go further, and to find the answers to their own questions. So if you're an experienced executive coach, listen, come with some ideas and tools to clarify things and ask the good questions.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, yeah. Robyn, do you agree with that? Is this something that you see in your everyday life, in your career, with your people, with people coming to you for help?
Oh, absolutely. And I think to even add to that, there was a great saying about, we hire smart people and then we don't listen to them. We want to hire smart people and we want them to be smart. We want to give them guidance. Not every leader can know everything. And I also think it's incredibly important. I've always said that from a leadership perspective, I think the greatest attribute you can have is empathy. People are messy. I own a business. I have 70 employees. We're mostly women here. There's always going to be somebody whose child gets sick at school or someone who's not feeling well or someone who's having an emergency. That there's never a day in small companies or big companies that there isn't something going on with someone. And I think that the ability to have empathy and compassion for people and understanding and flexibility for people really makes not only their lives easier, but your life easier. I never wake up in the morning with the expectation that every single person is going to be at work and at their best abilities today, right? Sometimes there's going to be someone who's ill or someone that needs the day off unexpectedly. So you're never really setting yourself up to be disappointed or angry or upset. I mean, we just take it all as it comes. We had last year, none of us worked together. But last year, there was a span of 2 weeks where 50% of our staff was out with the flu. I mean, it was like we were falling like dominoes. I was sending the Robin sick flu basket to houses all over this country. That's life. Life is messy. People are messy. And I think having empathy and a good, healthy sense of humor is the best leadership attribute that people can have.
That's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Um, I had one more thought for you, Robyn. When we talk about reframing career gaps or nonlinear paths, when we put those into compelling narratives for clients, especially in industries that stigmatize non-traditional trajectories, and I myself coming from a non-traditional trajectory, how do you reframe this?
Yeah, I think there's very few people that have a traditional trajectory. Gone are the days where you took a job and you worked there for 20 years or 30 years, or you only had two employers. Most people have 8, 10, 12 employers before they retire. So by basically focusing on the experience that aligns with the goal is the most effective thing to do in your resume. So, we've all had wild histories, right? Maybe you started in retail, then you moved into marketing, and then you somehow ended up in human resources, and now you're in operations. Your resume doesn't need to say, well, I did retail operations, human resources. I can do this. I can, do a split. I know how to, paint a room. That's not what a resume is about, right? It doesn't have to tell everything. What it has to do is lead the horse to water, right? You want to make sure that you're telling a story that aligns with the goal. So whenever we do an intake with a client, we get them on the phone with the interviewer and we basically say, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? What job are you after? What is the next career move for you? If they don't know that, we'll put them with a coach and define that. And then when we're writing the resume, we're only really including the experience, the information, the examples that align to the goal. People get very convoluted and sort of confused about what they should include. Should I include everything? Should I go back 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever? That's where a really good resume service comes in because they can help you figure out what is relevant, what's irrelevant, and then build your resume around it.
That's absolutely amazing. Question for the blonde lady. Um, Talking about cultural anchors and innovation, Claruna operates globally. How do you ensure that local cultural anchors like traditions, norms, values don't stifle innovation in global teams?
Can you just repeat the half past of yours that you
Yeah.
have?
So how do you make sure that innovation doesn't, sorry, forgive me. I was saying, how do you make sure? Let me repeat. Claruna operates globally. How do we make sure that local cultural anchors, local cultural traditions, local cultural norms, values, cultural stuff don't stifle innovation in global teams?
You know, this is a two-handed topic. It's very, very important. We were just talking about individuals. It's very important. We talked about empathy, to listen, to understand, and to be respectful with each other, with all the differences we have, not only in culture, but in personality and character. And this makes a team rich. And as an international company, I think it's a huge asset to the more people are different, the better it is. Your footprint or fingerprint is very varied. So respect people, listen to them, and again, with empathy, um, understand what is important for them, what is a no-go, or why some things are smoother than others. If you deal with this, if you are able to do this, you gain hugely.
All right. Okay. Okay. Amazing. Thank you. Robin, I'm sure that you realize the huge responsibility that comes with you posts reaching 200 million plus annually. I mean,
Crazy, yes.
you're really a super, super mega influencer. And this comes with a humongous responsibility because, frankly, what could be forgiven to others may be not easily forgiven for you because you influence so many people. I mean, 200 million plus annually. With this responsibility, what is, I mean, you clearly establish yourself without any hesitation, not only as a resume and career advisor expert, but also as a LinkedIn expert. So please tell me, what is your least obvious tactic for crafting content that resonates across industries without diluting your specificity? You, the beautiful Robin that you know. Is that Jack or is this your daughter? Who is helping you with content?
Oh, that's my daughter. He is, she sort of inspires me around, the content piece, but the content is actually all me. I don't think about 200 million people a year looking at my content. I don't even think about the 1 million people that follow me directly on LinkedIn. I show up on LinkedIn and I am genuinely myself. Sometimes, it's a thought that comes to me that I want to share. This week I'm in the middle of a kitchen remodel, so I told a story about how I gave away my furniture. It doesn't always have anything to do with resumes or a job search. I'm just sort of commonsensically myself. I'll get off of this event. I'm gonna go clean up cat poop. I'm gonna wipe the dust off of I'm just a human being. I don't think about influencing anything. I say what I say. I do it in a way I think that is really um sort of indicative to who I am. I care about people. I'm endlessly curious of their stories, where they've come from, where they're going and how they got to where they're going and what they can do to help others. And I think that's maybe why people like me. I'm not really sure, but I don't feel like that is a burden, and I don't feel like I need to be someone different than who I already am.
Amazing, always amazing. Thank you very much for sharing this. There is a lot to learn from this. Build the coaching mirror. I see very often CEOs and bosses and leaders, whatever you're gonna classify them, they hire actually beautiful coaches like yourself to fix others, not themselves. How do you help executives recognize when they are projecting their own unresolved challenges onto their teams?
That's funny, but indeed, I had twice customers who told me, "I have a leader here, can you please fix him?" So, al alone alone the wording is a bit special, isn't it?
I just pictured you with let that. E e e.
It's a bit more what you need in your kitchen, Robin, right? We take a screw and we fix things. So I take those opportunities, of course, to talk with the one who wants someone to be fixed. What is the situation? What is there? If people cannot be authentic and if people cannot be themselves, this will not match. So if there is problems, yes, we can talk about it and we can grow with our personality, our character. We can learn how to handle our emotions in a good way so that they help us to grow and not to destroy relationships or doors or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
I once had a customer he was angry and then he was putting his foot towards the door. He told me later I just wanted to close it, but we found ourselves with a big hole in the door. I mean, this is when I talk about learn to manage your emotions. Emotions are very important. They're very good. If people say, let's be professional and not emotional, this is for me ridiculous because we're human beings. We have emotions and we need them, but we need to regulate those. So this is something that might be topic of a coaching and has been topic of coachings I give even to executives.
Yeah.
But it's not about fixing people. It's about understanding the situation, the expectation, and maybe grow in your personality to better handle this.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you. Robin, a question that maybe I might relate later on to Verbal actually. Storyline's fully remote team prioritizes work-life balance.
Correct.
How do you do it without micromanagement? What is your unconventional rule or ritual that sustains this wonderful culture without you going and micromanaging everybody?
I don't have the time, the energy, or the personality to micromanage. That's just not my style. We set expectations of what projects are due. Everything here is very much automated. We are steeped in technology, reminders to our writers, calendar alerts to our interviewers. If someone misses a deadline, which they rarely do. There's a manager that speaks with them about that. I don't have the personality to do that. Our admin staff, they kind of come and go. In the morning, I love when all the moms are in Slack and they're like, okay, I'll be back in 15 minutes taking the kid to the bus stop. To me, that fulfills the passion and desire and dream that I had when I started this business, to put my own kids on the bus. Now my own children are grown adults now. But ultimately I am here and they are here, all because I wanted to be home to get my kids on and off the school bus. And I have sort of maintained my dedication to that kind of work-life balance with my team. And we set out to empower women and families, and we've done that. So none of those things bother me. There's nothing that makes me happier than someone says I'm kicking out early today because my kid has their first baseball game of the year or whatever. Those things bring me joy. I am sort of famous in my company for saying we are not brain surgeons. Nothing here is an emergency. Nothing is going to supersede or circumvent if something happens in your own house. And by creating that kind of culture, we have an extraordinary team that is always willing to step up and cover for someone else. So if, our main admin, is sick, there are 3 people that are volunteering to cover her for the afternoon. So we're talking all the time. We communicate all day long on Slack. And I think it's just, it's a vibe. Either you want that, either you are, if you're a leader and that kind of environment makes you nervous, or gives you anxiety, then, you're probably not cut out really to manage a lot of people, right? Because like I said, I always go back to this. People are messy. Their lives are messy. Things happen. And when you keep that in the forefront of what you do as far as how you lead and manage and set an example for your team, then I think that you'll never be disappointed. And then, of course, on the flip side, I mean, I hired people, and our philosophy is that if you want to work here, you have to be curious about people. You have to be interested in their stories. That's where the passion comes from. I have folks that have been here 18, 20, 22 years. They've been doing the same thing every day because everything is different. You have to love people to do this job. You have to love people to interview them. You have to love people to write about them. And, I think that's sort of the resounding theme in what we do here.
Makes me smile what you're saying, Robin. I think I could perfectly well work in your company.
Well, come on over.
Well, I have to look after my own company, but still. And when I was like 24 years old, I created my first own company. And the mere reason for this was my son was 2 years back then, 2 years old, and I couldn't find a job that would be possible to coordinate. I wanted to be a mom and I wanted to work, and it was just impossible. I mean, it's great that things have changed, but still, it's not always easy. I was in a very rural area. The kindergarten would open 4 hours, so the time to go to a job and the time to go back, you had like 3 hours to work. What job is there for 3 hours? Impossible. So I was 24 years old and I said, well, you want to be a mom and you want to work, then create your own company. I was a journalist back then and created my first press agency. And then I started to work with people exactly as you say, and I think this never left me. Um, this is what I meant, respect people. I mean, we all have our lives, we have our good and bad days, we have things we love, things we don't love. We all do things differently, which is great because this makes a great team. And I'm absolutely sure your colleagues there are going the extra mile for you.
And they do, we joke about this. Sometimes I'll see people that work on the weekends. I get alerts all the time and I say, listen, if you don't get out of here, I'm going to change the password to the email. We don't want, but they do, sometimes they feel like, okay, I was off during the week. There's a few things that I want to catch up on or whatever the case may be. But when you work from home and, we're a 24/7 business, I've got writers that, work in the evening. I've got writers that work in the morning. We have traditional business hours for mostly everything else. As long as you get your work done, and it's sort of the same philosophy. I don't care what time of the day you get your work done, as long as you get it done and as long as it's, into me by the day that it's due. And I also don't care where you are. If you want to work from your garage or you want to work from the south of France, that's none of my business. Everything here is about our productivity, the quality work that we do, hitting our deadlines and making sure we're taking care of our customers. And there's no rules around that. So, um,
Yes.
I just
Yeah,
feel
you're
like
right.
the working parents need a real revolution because not much has changed from the time, I started out in corporate America back in the early 90s to today. You're talking about a long period of time. I mean, in the US, we still don't have, paid maternity and paternity leave for a long time for a lot of companies. Someone had posted on LinkedIn yesterday about, trying to balance motherhood. And I said, listen, having a child is inconvenient, right? I mean, this is how, you're looked at. You need the time off. You're going to be on maternity leave. And then you have this baby. And in, a few weeks time, you're turning a baby over to, a daycare or maybe a stranger or someone it all seems so ludicrous to me. So I think that, from a, parenting perspective, things really need to change. And I hope that someone sort of takes up that mantle because what we're doing in the US at least, doesn't work for a lot of people. We're raising the next generation of human beings. It's an important job
Yes,
and needs to be viewed that way.
absolutely.
Sorry, Mike.
Mark. We digress.
Sorry, we didn't hear you. Robin, did we lose your audio?
You're good now. I can hear you.
I can hear you. I want to share something with you. Honestly, I think a lot of people around the world believed in the American dream of freedom and actually all the beautiful values of what we hear about the United States. But frankly, without talking politics, I really don't want to talk politics. But what we are seeing today on news stickers all over the world about those thousands and thousands of people who are being fired like on the drop of a hat, although those are people who received very, very recently amazing appraisals for their work. We can't understand how this could happen. I mean, how can this country that we all looked at as like, wow, the American life, what everybody would dream of having, is just firing people who have been loyal to their jobs for 30, 40 years and who have top performance on their jobs? Can they?
There's definitely an alarming trend. So when companies are tasked with cutting costs, which they are all the time, every day, across the US, the first thing they look at is the staffing. Well, prior to the pandemic, when costs were cost cutting measures were being made, executives, talked and they department by department, they looked at who were their top performers, who were their underperformers, who were some of the newer people. And, maybe we're going to make some cuts, across the board. Maybe we can encourage so and so to retire. Maybe we can, put a stop to hiring right now for, new college graduates or whatever. And it seems like a reasonable, a business minded approach was being taken to make, the most cost savings while still maintaining the integrity and the knowledge and the, experience of the team. It's like all of that flew out the window. So the most alarming thing that we've seen over the past couple of years, which have admittedly been the worst job market really in my lifetime in modern history, in the US, is this whacking people across the board, without any insight or forethought into how, number one, we're going to replace them, how it is that we're going to continue to perform at the level that we've been performing. This sort of, blind passion to appease stakeholders and shareholders and investors and boards of directors is really superseding the commonsensical approach in which layoffs have been made previously. So it is like the Wild West out here. I mean, we have clients that walk in the door for resume services that are completely in shock. Companies they've been with their entire careers, work their way up, let go like they were yesterday's newspaper. I mean, it has been shocking, heartbreaking on a lot of fronts. That's why I tell people do not ever have any sense of I can't be touched because everyone can be touched. Being prepared is the best thing you can be. Do not wait until you lose your job before you start accepting LinkedIn invitations from people. Do not wait until you lose your job before you start networking or reaching out to old peers or old bosses to make sure you're expanding your network. You may need them sooner rather than later. And I hope everyone would keep their job, but that's just not the way of the world. The amount of people losing and the numbers, layoffs, okay, 10% across the board. Now you're looking at 15%, 20%, 25% across the board by the thousands, by the thousands, by the thousands. Scary stuff.
Amazing, amazing feedback and scary. I mean, I heard you, but please correct me if I'm wrong. But I heard you say that in your lifetime, you haven't seen a job market as bad as what you are seeing today.
I haven't, and I've been doing this for 25 years. I mean, the bubble, when the housing bubble burst back in 2008 and 2009, that affected some sectors. But this is like all sectors. I mean, we're seeing massive cuts among places where traditionally you hadn't before. Technology is taking a huge hit. You're seeing it in education, you're seeing it in healthcare. I mean, now obviously you're seeing it across the government sectors. Those jobs were typically insulated. So you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of new candidates on the market. Every couple of months. It's really it's really tough in the US right now.
Bärbel, what happens when such events happen, when like people in great numbers are laid off, is that some people unfortunately can't handle this, neither psychologically, nor financially, nor with their family, nor with their friends. Some people it breaks them, and some people show resilience. And I know that you are very, very good at coaching leaders around diverse setbacks and leaping forward, not only simply recovering. Tell us a story, please, about something that you have lived recently through one of the leaders that you coach who maybe found himself or herself in a similar position, like they lost their job, and with the help, they were able to come back leaping forward.
Yes. Thank you for this great question. I think we have to be very clear on one thing. To lose your job, this might really be a trauma. It is affecting people heavily, even those who manage to handle it in a better way. And this is, of course, very important. So at Claruna, what we do, it's an approach that starts with yourself. So rediscover who you are, what is important to you, what is crucial to you, what are your values, like those non-negotiable things in your life that you also do not give up in workplaces. Then, of course, think about your skills and think broad, like don't think in terms of CV only, in terms of candidate only, but think what makes you happy. We see more and more people who are courageous or forced to, if you wish, but many who decide so to do a second or third career, to do something completely different. So in our coaching approach, we dig deep in what really makes you happy, what brings you to this flow of concentration where you don't count, where time is not important, you're just happy to do it. So things like this, and then as Robynn already mentioned, look at your experiences, at the projects that you have done, not only on positions, but really what did you achieve in life and what helped you, and then figure out what skill is behind this. So I have seen beautiful new careers growing like this. And by the way, my own career is something like this. I have never been laid off. Luckily, I had to lay off people in bigger numbers of 10% of company, which was very, very hurtful. Very hurtful because I knew all of them. So this lane of people in even bigger numbers, I can't even imagine what's going on there. This must be, as you said, Wild West. That must be horrible.
Yeah.
But after taking a few deep breaths, many of my colleagues, and I helped them because I already started coaching back then. So imagine I was the CEO of an industry company. I had to lay them off, and then they came to see me to get help how to find a new job and what kind of job. So that was great. And that confirmed for myself that my calling is to be a coach and a consultant.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so at 48, I completely started a new career. I stopped being the CEO of a manufacturing company and bought a computer and sat at home. I had no longer my big office, my assistant, my car, IT service who would look after everything.
Yeah.
I was there thinking, what did you do? But it was what I dreamt of, what I wanted to do. And today, every day, I'm grateful for this job.
Oh, that's such an inspirational story. You're an inspiration. That's so great.
Thank you, Robynn.
You know, Robin, one thing that I noticed about a lot of resumes today is that they are stuffed with keywords. Like very often you feel that people are trying to stuff keywords that are not related to the roles or not related to the experience that they are relating. How do you manage the challenge of keeping resumes both ATS scannable and at the same time they are enjoyable for human beings to read them when they use?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are always trying to beat the system a little bit. There's lots of advice out there, that might be, mislaid advice or not great advice about, looking at job targets and then kind of pulling keywords and shoving them in your resume. And, that's not really how, the ATS system works, right? So the ATS is looking, it's vetting based on, maybe years of experience, education, whatever sort of, the priorities are for that hiring manager. But when you're telling a story in your resume about your successes and you're applying for jobs that make sense to your qualifications, your background, your experience, keywords come about organically. So you don't really need to feel like you should be stuffing your resume. It feels very fake. It feels very convoluted. It can feel a little bit embellished. It can make your story disjointed. So I think when you're honest and genuine in your approach, you tell about little stories about and I'm not talking about long-winded stories. I'm talking about a couple of bullets about a success that you had. And when you use the language that is indicative to the work that you've done or maybe the industry that you've worked in, those keywords are going to appear on your resume organically. And then it feels genuine and that's what makes it enjoyable for people to read. But if you're kind of popping terms and words in there that maybe don't make sense or don't have the right context, people, read that and think, well, what the hell is this person trying to say? That's not the impression that you're trying to give.
Absolutely. Bärbel, as a coach, you shape leaders who shape organizations. How do you ensure that your coaching doesn't inadvertently reinforce harmful power dynamics in the workplace?
That's a great question. Um, in every coaching, it's important to look at this side why people are doing things. And this usually, if you dig a bit deeper, is indeed based on personal and also companies' values. So even if people come up with ideas, which sometimes happens under pressure, yeah, you have this economically difficult situations, you need to cut costs, then as we have heard very, very often, if not always, it's first you look at HR, you look how to reduce people. So right now in the beginning of our chat, we talked about AI. So there is also coming a big change, yeah. And yeah, then sometimes managers have the idea or the necessity to lay off people. And then it starts to think, how can we do and how can we keep the right people? Maybe in the US, this is a bit different, but in Europe, at least in Germany, it's very complicated to lay off someone. And if so, you usually use your young and brilliant talents, and you are obliged to keep some people that maybe you didn't want to originally. So people start to get creative, and then sometimes they lose track on doing things they would respect themselves. So I think this is a duty for an executive coach to always challenge them. Are you on track with what you self believe in, what you want to build in your career and in your company?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Robin, when we were very, very, very young, we're told to walk and to talk. And as soon as we do, we're told to stay quiet and to sit down.
That is true. In the US, they call that the shut up and sit down. Yes. You said that so much more politically correct.
In your wonderful book, you discuss finding your power and how you had clients identify hidden strengths that they have been socialized to downplay, like empathy in male dominated fields that I know that Bärbel actually can very much relate to. Tell us please about this. Tell us please about the book. Tell us about the story of the book and why you got actually this focus on identifying hidden strengths in your book. Why you're talking about this.
Yeah, so I wrote a book called Career Confidence, and it's basically a story about my life and where I came from, and then how we started this business, and how sort of through the years it grew into the little monster that it is now. 70 employees, and 24, 25 years, going on 25 years this year. But the idea really is that a lot of us are, raised to be certain things. Maybe your dad was an attorney or your mom was a nurse, and you were sort of raised to be something because you saw, hey, this is a good job, and whatever. So people kind of grow up with the idea that they're supposed to be a certain something. Maybe you were known as the pretty one or the smart one or the athletic one or whatever. And these labels can kind of influence us as we're growing up and influence us into jobs that maybe, we shouldn't be in. And there are certain ways to continue to evaluate through the course of your career how it is that you are finding yourself in the job that's right for you. And the question that you need to be asking yourself on a daily basis is, how happy am I? No one is happy all day, every day in their job. They're not happy all day, every day in their life, right? My husband irritates me on a regular basis. I'm sure I irritate him on a regular basis. But most of the time, he makes me happy. Most of the time, I make him happy. It's the same with your job. So if you go to your job and there are some certain annoyances that you run into every single day, that's normal. Everybody has that. But when you start going into your job and now you're anxious, you're unhappy, you're weeping, you don't feel like getting out of bed. Sundays are the worst day of your life because you have to go back to work the next day. These are all things, and a lot of people and a lot of backgrounds and a lot of ethnicities and a lot, we're told to suck it up and, be tough and do all of these, you have to do the right things. Sometimes it's not going to make you happy. That's not always the case. So you want to be asking yourself all the time, am I happy most of the time? And if the answer is yes, then you're probably in the right job for you. But as soon as it starts being no, and I'm not saying that, that's a weakness, and there's always going to be a level of discomfort or things that make us uncomfortable or things that, push our boundaries or our knowledge. And that's all good things. Those are growing things. But it's really the ability to identify ultimately whether or not day to day you feel happy most of the time. And it's okay to own happiness. No one is a martyr, and nor should you be. Lots of people are sort of given that sort of martyr, kind of mentality from families or people that they've met along the way. You don't have to be that. There's no reason to sacrifice yourself. This is our one life that we get to live. And I don't want to be philosophical because I'm not really that way in real life. But, we see it so often that people come to us and they're so unhappy. And, it's just like soul crushing to be in a place that doesn't appreciate you, that you have no passion for. So it's okay to ask yourself the question, am I happy most of the time? And if the answer is no, do something about it. You have the power and the ability to do it. And, that's some of the things that I talk about in my book. And, some of the strangest successes that we hear from people came from the most strange circumstances. Always be aware of and on the lookout for opportunities that you never thought would come your way.
What
Well,
feedback. Amazing feedback. The book is on Amazon, right?
It's on Amazon. It's called Career Confidence.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, from this podium, Career Confidence, strongly recommended. Strongly recommended.
I will go get it.
I'm sure you will. I saw when you
Will be.
There's some fun stories in there. My one day my husband was sitting on his chase lounge and he was laughing out loud. He was reading my book and I said, "What the hell are you laughing about? Like you've lived this with me for 30 some years." And he's like, "I forgot about this story. This story was really funny." Because of course he's heard all the stories, but I love a good laugh. So there's some good laughs in there.
Great.
Bärbel, any book projects? Any books for group labs?
Yes,
No more book
indeed.
project for me. I'm one and done on the book front. I've told all my stories and I tell stories every day. So
Bärbel, how about you?
I say my dream in life is to open a diner where I serve nothing but macaroni and cheese, chocolate chip balls, and Italian roast beef. I think that's going to be my next.
Could be a nice book story too. The Lady with the Macaroni Cheese Diner.
I love it.
Yeah, Mark, indeed. I'm working on two book projects actually. One is almost out. I'm very excited, but we will be publishing very soon. We talked about it in this podcast, and everybody is talking about it. The whole world is talking about AI. What at Claruna we see in our consultancy is some companies, they're excited, they're ahead of time, they are really in it, and some are not. And they haven't even really started. They hear it, but they say, well, we don't know where to start. We don't know if this is for us. We don't know how to implement it. Not for the moment. And I think the train is running very fast. And I'm writing a book for companies to understand the basics and especially to find the steps onto this train so that you're not left behind. Because if you do not embrace this huge, huge change at all, I'm afraid this will not work for you very long.
Yes.
So I really want to help companies that are not the early movers, but who should move soon to get the global idea and also to learn, because this is what we do a lot those days, help developing AI strategies.
Yes.
So what do we do? What do we want to achieve with this? Where do we want to go? And then also how to implement it, how to help the employees. Some are same excited, others are afraid, they don't know how. So how to roll this out so that everybody can really make use of it.
Great. We're looking.
So we are very close to publishing.
Yes.
We let you know, guys.
Right. Great. Thank you. Thanks for this. Robin, a lot of advice get outdated with time. Like things used to be done in a way, but today this is not anymore in your favor. Specifically thinking about resumes. How many times did we in the past, for example, hear some advice being given about how to do a resume? And in modern times, actually, no, those have fallen behind, like, and they have actually come counter recommended. Please, what's one obsolete resume tip you wish would disappear, and what's your modern replacement for it?
I think that the resume tip that should disappear, is that there is a right and a wrong way to do a resume. Um, there isn't. We do resumes a certain way because we work with a certain level of people. So, we always write 2-page resumes. But if you're a kid out of college with 5 minutes work experience, you don't need a 2-page resume. I think that the most important thing about resumes is that you need a resume that works for you. And that can look like a lot of different things. So I tell this story about how we had an executive who was a marketer and she took 3 years off to be at home with her baby. And she really loved being home with her baby for those 3 years. And on her resume, we actually put a picture of the baby. Non-traditional. I mean, any resume writer would say, "Don't do that. That's ludicrous." But we put the cutest little picture, and she told this little story about how she had waited a long time to become a mom, and and it was so sweet. And it wasn't like some sort of bullshit, oh, I took a leave of absence to find myself kind of thing. It was a real and genuine little thing that happened, and we put it on a resume, not a little thing having a baby, but this little time piece that she was missing, and people were like, "Oh my god, that is so great." She got a job almost immediately. She was brilliant. But I think being genuine and being true to who you are is the best advice that I can give you. And then the other piece of advice that I can give you is stop listening to, resume experts, because they're a dime a dozen. There's a million different bits of advice. There's no right or wrong. There's only what's right or wrong for you.
Thank you for sharing this. People talking about work-life balance. Everybody says work-life balance, and I want to have a balance and work and life. I want to work. And as you know, we hear amazing stories about people being offered really, really very, very generous jobs. And they start by saying, how many days can I work from home without coming to the office? Already like in the discussions. And talking about work-life balance and this being a common goal for almost everybody today, you see that some leaders actually thrive in imbalance. Some people don't need to sleep 8 hours, and they thrive actually in having focus on something. like in focusing on a job or in focusing on a project, especially if it's something that is with big consequences for their careers. How do you help clients redefine balance in a way that aligns with their own unique rhythms?
Yeah, there again, this is a very, very, very individual approach. As you said, some people just love to do what they do and they don't need a lot of sleep and they are very happy with it. You wouldn't speak about yourself, Mark, would you?
I do sometimes.
I'm not a big fan of a model and then fill a list and what do you do in your life? And there is never balance in life. There's always too much or too little. I mean, there's nothing linear. And it's amazing to work hard for your job sometimes, but you also need other stuff to be inspired, to be resourced, to have energy again. So yes, you do need breaks. You do need to see whatever fills you up, like nature or rock concert, or I don't know, but whatever is good for yourself. Spend time with your loved ones, relax, sleep, walk, do sports. We all need this. We need food, we need sleep, and we need an interruption. But we also need interruption from holidays. We need to achieve also. We need to work and love this. As Robin just said, ask yourself, are you happy most of the time? I love this, what you said, because um, there is a study that if you find your real motivational activities, things like I mentioned before, where you really can't stop because you love so much to do it. If you can bring those in 20% of what you're doing in your job, you're good.
Right.
And it's not what you know best. I know to do accounting and I don't love it at all. So if I had to do this the whole day, difficult. I can do it sometimes, but only because I have things that I really love.
Yes.
So balance, no. Both needs to have a space, and you need to figure out how much of what. The other day I met a candidate. She applied for a wonderful job, like in her eyes, because she was looking for such a job. Live in 5 minutes to the headquarters of the company. And then she pulled back her application because the company wasn't ready to put in the contract that she could do 2 days of home office. Although they told her she can do home office as much as she wants it, the work is done, and if it's not necessary, that she's on site.
But she wants it in the contract.
And she wanted it in the contract and let the job go. And this, to be honest, surprises me a lot, if I can put it politely. The company needs to get along. You need to get along. The company hopefully wants you to stay happy and healthy, and therefore you need breaks.
Yes. Robin, I see, and I see you have something you want to share on this.
No, I mean, she's right on. I mean, there has to be, some balance. There's a saying, well, we were taught as women, especially, you can have it all. You can have a career. You can have, yeah, you can. You can't have everything all at once. It's not an all at once proposition. There are going to be days that you're going to be guilty about being away from your children. There are going to be days that you're flying high in your career, but the hot water tank breaks. There is no real balance in a way that makes everybody happy all the time. Somebody always feels like they're getting the short stick from you. So I think for women, sort of setting them up for this notion that you can be everything to everyone all the time, is really sort of self-defeating. There are going to be times where you're going to feel like you're pretty much on top of stuff, and the next day you're not going to feel that way, and that's all okay. You just have to really, again, ask yourself, what makes me happy? And figure out a way to make it work. I did a poll on LinkedIn this morning. If you could, for the ladies, it was a poll for the ladies. If you could feasibly financially afford to stay home with your kids, would you? And 30% of women said yes. 30% of women said no. And, the other, there were a couple of other options. I'd work part-time or I'd do it for a few years. I think that women feel like they've been sort of sold a bill of goods, always being encouraged to, feel like they can have everything. They're out there doing, the same kind of careers as their husbands, or they are, managing an office or managing a company or having these very high level, but they're also coming home and having, children that they've got to take care of, and they've got things around the house. I just feel, I feel like that women feel torn a lot, and that's okay. And I think that's why there's moms group that exists, and we have conversations like this that say, it's okay to sometimes feel overwhelmed, and it's okay to sometimes put yourself first. So I think as long as people know that, there can be balance, but you're never going to have everything all at once all the time.
Easy. Bärbel, I would like to talk a bit about the unspoken cost of success that you see with a lot of people that sacrifice a lot for their careers. In your experience, what is the most overlooked personal sacrifice that leaders make on their path to success, and how do you help them navigate that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's two things that we pay very costly. We just talked about kids.
Yeah.
I remember this. I was in a program for high potential something, and we got this one sheet with a few lines on it, and we were invited to put in the different life heads you have, like family, partnership, yourself, kids, parents, friends, hobbies, sports, whatever, to put in a line in 5-year steps what you want to do, what you want to achieve. And it hit me that day. My son was 9 years back then. And then the next line, he would be 14, and then he would be out of the house, most probably. And I remember this period of maybe from 6 to 9, 10, 11. I worked a lot. I had constantly a very, very bad conscience, and I was very exhausted because to do everything was quite challenging. And these
Mommy
two
guilt.
things,
The mommy guilt. It's
absolutely,
never ends.
absolutely, absolutely. And then it hit me like 2 lines later, I wouldn't drive him to sports. I wouldn't pick him up from school. I wouldn't have to arrange all of this with my job. But he wouldn't be in the house anymore. He would maybe go to university, move far away, whatever. And, children are the most beautiful thing in the world, the most beautiful thing you can experience in your life, I think. And yes, it's not every day easy, from when they're very little to when they grow up.
Yeah.
But in retrospective, I sound like a grandma, yeah, but it is true. In retrospective, it goes fast, and this time is precious. So I would once again want to work if I would be 24 now, and I think I would again found my first company. But have mercy on yourself and enjoy the time with your kids. There's a lot of life left when you're growing up. And the second thing, of course, is your health. It's if you go too far, if you don't pay attention to yourself and you break yourself, be it burnout or cancer or whatever it could be, exhaustion, which job is worth this? So it's good to be very ambitious and to love your job and to do a lot of things, but you should also, again, reflect sometimes if you don't need to fuel a bit on health, on relationships, on rest, on work, on career. We said there is no balance, but try to pour every cup of your life a little bit from time to time. You can survive if there is one area of your life very dominant for a while, but it shouldn't be all the time like this.
Yeah. Robyn, do you have similar experience with people that you work with?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that people, can you hear me okay? Grace said that I was muted. Can you hear me? So yeah, I mean, we work with people all the time that are trying to achieve that balance and they're feeling guilty. Maybe they're traveling too much, or a lot of times the women that come to us for resume services is really so they can look for a job to kind of achieve that, or semblance of a balance. They're feeling bad about missing events. They're feeling bad about the hours that they're putting in. Right now, it is, pretty evident in the US that a lot of people are doing the jobs of several people and not just their job because layoffs have been so rampant. So people are feeling a lot of pressure to work extra hours. And, there's only so long that you can do that. There's only really so long that is sustainable. A lot of new clients that come to us are coming to us, because they're burned out. They can't go anymore. They can't do anymore. They can't give anymore, and it's time for them to find something new. So,
Bärbel, some leaders show some vulnerability in a way or another. Can you share a story where a leader that you had actually came on their vulnerability and used it as a force? I don't know.
Yes,
Any examples? Yeah.
I think back at this very young leader, first or second leadership position, um, at maybe late 20s or early 30s. And he found a team of very experienced colleagues. And he was there to change things, to change processes, to change tools in after sales. And that went well, and the team was great. And there was this one colleague close to retirement who would continue to work like always before. Great experience, nice guy, but whatever the young leader would do, he couldn't get any change there. Tried everything, tried to explain again, give the goal, give the vision, train, didn't work. So in the coaching, he shared with me the situation and he said, I really don't know what to do anymore, but apparently this guy's not respecting me. What do I do? Apparently he thinks I'm too young. What do I do? And then we discussed this and I said, how do you feel about it? And what about you share this with your colleague? So they went on a one-on-one and he said, look, I have a job to do here. I try to do it the best I can, but you don't let me do my job and I don't know what to do anymore. And this colleague who was something like 63 or something, he was completely shocked. And he said, I appreciate you so much. It's so great that you joined the department. Everything you do is wonderful. The last thing I want to do is to be any in your way. I want to work with you in the team. And then they figured out that the colleague just didn't know how to use the new tools. He was afraid that younger colleagues would laugh at him. And they became the best team ever. So they could help them greatly afterwards. And yeah, the guy was vulnerable. He said, I don't know what to do anymore. I give up. You don't let me do my job. What can I do? And this worked out so brilliantly.
Yes. I'm sure Robyn can relate to that through the work she does with her clients, especially in the wake of COVID-19, where people probably, I can imagine, started coming to you in big numbers saying, I'm being required to work from home, but I don't know how to. How could you help those people?
well, I mean, yeah, first of all, Grace is letting me know that she is unable to hear me. I think that she's on LinkedIn. Are we streaming on LinkedIn? Are you having a technical issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think we.
Okay. And then this is my last question. I need to wrap up. Okay. Yeah, I mean, as far as the working from home, I mean, that was something that was forced on so many people. And, we all had to figure it out. Everybody had to, get a laptop. They had to learn how to use Zoom. They had to learn how to connect their telephones for their speakers and all that good stuff. I think that the, IT departments really across the globe did such a phenomenal job. We actually did a resume for an executive for one of the biggest social media companies in the world. And he said in record time, over the course of 5 days, we moved 20,000 people from a number of different offices across the globe to working from home. I mean, they were the real heroes here, literally working around the clock and making sure people had the tools that they needed to have. And then it turns out everybody loved it. Everybody loved working from home. They loved to not have that commute. They loved being available for their children. Anyone who follows me on LinkedIn knows that I am a huge, huge proponent and a huge advocate of work from home. So I think it's something that companies really need to be looking at long term. People who work from home tend to be happier, more productive, more loyal, and stay with those organizations. And they're also willing to work more hours. They're at home in their offices. So, if I'm working in an office and I leave at 5 o'clock, I'm not checking back in. Right? I've done my time. I've got this commute. I've been forced back to the office. But if I'm working from home, there's nothing keeping me from at 7 or 8 o'clock or after the kids are in bed, jumping in and working on a project. I think companies need to realize that it is in their benefit, it is to their benefit, and in their best interest to come up with some way that allows at least some work from home options for the people on their teams.
Thank you very much for this. Bärbel, any other words you would like to close with?
I couldn't agree more. I see, Robin, you have to go. It was such a pleasure discussing with both of you. It was mind opening. It was very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Robin, any last words you would like to?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's always such a pleasure to chat with you, and to see this audience and share these ideas for a better work life for everyone.
Thank you very much, Robin. We appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It was lovely.